Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Sesele. I have a very special guest today, and she'll be sharing her experiences of how she migrated from Nigeria to Canada. So if you're interested in topic like that, make sure you watch this video till the very end. So without further ado, let's get to meet our guest. So what's the name and where you're from?
Hi everybody, my name is Maryanne Shared. I am originally from Nigeria. I currently work with the Alberta government and I've been there for about a year now in the HR space, which is very much in line with what I studied when I came here as a student. So I've always been in that HR space prior to Canada and right now.
Okay, that's good. So I know a lot of the concerns that people have is how do they even get started, and so let's talk about yourself from back home in Nigeria. So just making that decision that you want to come to Canada. So what made you choose Canada instead of there's US, there is UK, there is Germany, and there is even Ghana? So
because I wish there was a straightforward answer to that, but honestly, I think I was at the point in my life where I wanted to be very adventurous. So I knew that there was more out there beyond Nigeria. I had the privilege of working with PricewaterhouseCoopers when I was in Nigeria, and I had the opportunity to work with people that were in other countries. And so for me,
it's an international company.
Yes,
It's
a global firm, one of the big four consulting firms. So that kind of like piqued my interest because I always just admired the other colleagues from across the world that would come on secondment, whether from the UK or like South Africa for a short period of time, right? Good. And so I said, well, maybe it's about time to go do my master's program because it was a thing at that time where in PwC, after like 2-3 years, a lot of us would venture out to do our master's program or go on secondment, depending on how the company wanted your career to go. So why Canada? I think because Canada was the only country that was very embracing of me and I could afford at the time.
Oh, that's good.
So at the time I made up my mind that my master's program was the next thing I wanted to do. I had applied to 3 different countries. It was UK, US, and Canada. And as time went on, it became very evident that Canada was the final destination for me. UK was supposed to be through British Evening Scholarship. I got to the last stage, and some dude from KPMG knocked me out.
Oh my goodness. I actually applied for that Chevening scholarship, but I couldn't get it. So that's kind of how my whole journey in the UK I was like, okay, maybe let me try another. I tried Chevening, I tried the Commonwealth scholarship. It's not working.
At that time, the UK sort of was not allowing people to stay. So for me, when I didn't get that Chevening scholarship, I was like, okay, I'm not going to waste my time.
Initially, my original plan was to, go to the UK, do my master's, and then come back to Nigeria. I actually wanted to lecture originally, so I wasn't even concerned that if I couldn't stay back. I was like, I'm willing to actually come back to, but Canada changed the game, right?
Looking back now.
I was like, oh man, Canada changed the game, right?
So I ended here in Canada because I applied to 3 schools in Canada. I applied to 3 schools in the US, and I applied to 3 schools in the UK. So all the 3 schools in the UK gave me admission. I remember it was Manchester, Warwick University, and one other one I can't remember, and Robert Gordon. Those 3. And then for the US, out of the 3 schools, I only got admission into Ohio State University. The school fees was ridiculous at that time, and I knew I just couldn't afford it. I think it was like $60,000 for a 2-year program.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. And so for Canadian schools, at the end of the day, out of the 3 schools I applied, Memorial University came back and it was a yes. And that was how I came here September 2016.
So I know you did the employment relations. So that's kind of very related to. So that's kind of the advice I normally tell people. If you're planning to come to Canada, and if you just want to, not to stress yourself, explain your career path and your projection to the visa officer in your letter of explanation, just choose something that resonates with what you're already doing. It will be easy for you to justify that. So in terms of the application process, did you do everything yourself, or did you look for an agent or something?
To be honest, I started the process myself from the very beginning. You just have to be very resourceful.
Absolutely.
To be honest. But then I think I would not even take all the glory for it, because PwC was an organization where a lot of my colleagues were very well exposed. So some of them had gone to do their masters before abroad. Before coming back to work for PwC. So I was able to interact with them. A lot of them were able to share their GRE materials with me. They were able to walk me through. But I did literally 95% of it myself. I think the only time I got in contact with an agent was when, at that time, dollars was very scarce. And so it was an agent that really helped me to pay my tuition. And so I just had to pay the commission for it, right? But it was 95% all by myself.
So that's really what I tell people. So if you are interested in this coming to Canada journey, don't wait for a miracle or a magic to happen, right? So you have to put in the work in searching for schools, and kind of understanding the whole process. So you mentioned about GRE. So your program required GRE?
It did. At that time, it was GMAT or GRE. Funny enough, the year before 2016, GRE was not a requirement. So it was the year I decided to do, to say I wanted to come to Canada. I went back to the website and I was like, oh my gosh, now there's a GRE. And to be honest with you, I do not take interest in anything that is mathematical.
I understand that.
I do it, but it doesn't come natural to me. But I don't fail in it anyway. So I had to do the GRE. And then I also had to do the TOEFL. But TOEFL was not a prerequisite. I only did it because I was like, okay, I do want to boost my profile. I want these people to look at my admission submission and be able to say, okay, TOEFL is there, even though it's not required. She works in PwC. There's a GRE score. And she has work experience in line with what she wants to come to do. And so I just did TOEFL. But I could have easily have asked for a waiver, but I just wanted to boost my chances of being nominated into the program.
Absolutely. So I think that's very useful, so just think about, even though it is, even sometimes they will say optional. So if there are, like, let's say 2 people having the same profile and then everybody is the same, they can say, oh, this person has TOEFL, right? So it means that you already have an edge, right? So
exactly.
So even though it's not compulsory, you can always find time to, do some of those extra things, put in the work and everything, in order for everything to kind of come together. So just in terms of the the visa application, so did you have to pay the tuition before coming, or like you paid the tuition when you arrived in Canada?
I had to pay 2/3 of it, and so paying 2/3 of it was when I then used that payment slip, because the cashier's office will send you that payment slip as an evidence, and then I used it to submit for my visa application, showing clearly that whatever was in my financial statement was just going to be living expense plus a small 1/3 portion that I was yet to pay on top of my tuition, right? So it sort of like helps. Like, my advice to people is try as much as possible to pay at least half. You don't have to do 2/3 like I did, but because for every financial statement you submit and your tuition has not been paid at all, it further makes it difficult, because they have to subtract that tuition and then know what is left for your living expenses and things like that, right? So please pay your tuition, because it helps you to not fall into the trap of being rejected or denied visa.
Absolutely. It works for people differently, based on the program you're applying for, your experiences and everything. So the application process is not always like this. So this is very peculiar to her circumstances. I want to add one question. So are there scholarship opportunities for that program?
There are no scholarship opportunities prior to you joining the program. But when you are in the program, there is a website, I think it's just a common website in Memorial, where as a grad student, you can apply for any type of scholarship you want based on your CGPA and based on your opportunities to do volunteer work. So for instance, when I was in school, like I wanted to get scholarship. And so I remember talking to the admin assistant. She's like, you know what, Maryanne, here's the link, go check it out, right? And I went there, and so I got nominated. There was a scholarship from the Graduate Student Union that I got. There was another scholarship from the School of Graduate Studies that I also, those two scholarships were based off of my CGP and my ability to volunteer within and outside campus.
So we are going to talk about the volunteer because that's like another whole conversation, you know, but that has been very useful. So there are a lot of, especially a lot of this MBA and some of these economics, you might not get the entrance scholarship because they are not really research programs, but when you get to the department, especially maybe in your first year, you know, you might be able to get some of those scholarships, right? So even though you don't have entrance scholarships, so you might be able to get, you know, some scholarships when you're in the program. But there are some, that's what, just kind of once you start the program, already check out what scholarship opportunities are available and what are their requirements, right?
Yeah.
So if it's GPA, then you have to make sure that during your exams you do well, right?
Yeah.
If it's volunteering, then you have to build your profile, right? So that is very amazing. When you got your visa approved, what was the feeling like for you?
I was super excited.
Oh, that's good.
It was a feeling of relief because for me at that time, I had heard from Wilfrid Laurier University. It had come back rejected.
Oh man.
I can't remember the other university I had applied to, but it came back rejected. And so I was holding my breath to hear from Memorial, and the day it arrived, it was a very exciting day for me.
That's good. Sometimes rejection is not, it doesn't mean don't try, right? That's why I encourage you, if it is possible, apply for at least two to three schools, because you know if you miss the deadline, you know you have to wait till the following year, right? So you can't, once it's past the deadline, you can't go back to apply. So it's advisable if you can apply for 2 to 3 programs. That would be really very useful, right? So when you got your admission, then you kind of put things together and did your visa application.
Yeah, because when I got I think the admission came in March of 2016.
Yeah.
And then when it came, I paid my tuition, and then I remember submitting my visa
application
by June.
Wow.
And so the result of my visa did not come out until almost like 3rd week of August.
Wow.
So when it came out, I literally had no time. It was boom, book my ticket, and I was out.
School is resuming next month, and then So when you got that email approval from CIC, how did you feel? Did you feel like you were like on top of the moon, or like how was the feeling like for you when your visa was approved?
That expression you just reminded me of.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, it was the day I got my visa application. I was very, very excited.
Yeah.
It's an overwhelming feeling that you really can't describe, because at that time, you know, like how people say it's Nigeria, my passport was fresh. I had never gone outside the shores of Nigeria.
Absolutely,
I had friends in those days. You know, PwC was a big firm. People go to Dubai, they travel. Me, I was saving my money.
Yes. Canada is Canada, right?
I'm saving my money to like do this next step. So when it happened, I was just holding all of those things, because you know people will be telling you, oh, you've never traveled before. Not even Ghana, really.
Yeah.
And then the day it came, it was like, oh my God, this is actually real.
It's
so
possible.
The stories out there really don't have to be your story, to be honest. Yeah.
Absolutely. Even mine, I actually got my international passport in April.
Yeah.
And I applied for that same month, so my passport was very fresh. And when I applied my visa, and then it came out like probably like 2-3 weeks after, right? So don't think about like travel history. Sometimes if they have other excuse to give, they just pull everything together and say travel history. So to be honest, it is not a requirement, so don't really worry about trying to, you have to go to Ghana. They don't care about, you know, you already travel. If you even though you've already traveled to US and your application is not well packaged, you know, it doesn't just work.
But my one advice to anybody is, and this is something I wish I knew before coming,
absolutely,
is that Canada will always, time and over again, they've proven that, and this is personally from my experience and experiences of friends that I know, that they will give you a visa that is valid, they will give you a visa up to the validity of your passport.
Yeah.
So in my case, if someone had told me that, I would have first of all renewed my passport.
Okay.
So I only had 6 months validity.
Oh my goodness.
And so they only gave me 6 months
so
visa. So when I came here, I was under pressure and panic.
New passport.
To find work, because I had to take myself to Ottawa, right? To find accommodation. Like, it was a very stressful first semester for me.
Wow.
So I wish, that's one thing I'll do differently, just to make sure that my passport validity was long enough that they at least give me the 2-year visa as a student. One other thing that I will advise anybody is that please do not apply to a program because people say that there is money in that profession.
Absolutely.
Your path will always be different. I almost fell into that trap. When I came, because I heard that my program was 1 year, and you know, like when you do a 1-year program, they only give you an 8-month visa.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I had to go back to my faculty. And please always stay close with your administrative assistants in your, those guys, they are an embodiment of knowledge. They understand immigration. They've worked with several international students as you are. They can help you map out a path for yourself. And so she had explained to me that even though on the website the program says 1 year, because I was on the tuition Part C payment, I could stretch my program for 2 years. So if I had taken what the word out there on the street was, I would have gone to switch into a thesis program, which I knew was not my core strength, right? And so try to stay inquisitive, try to stay curious, try to ask questions before you make that jump. And I think for me, those are the advice that I have. And please try to, you know, this thing we always say in Nigeria, don't just pass through school, allow school. Peter, you know, you and I were in the graduate student union. I was a non-executive board member.
Absolutely.
And he also, you were in the Senate. You were, you were a representative.
I used to attend meetings with the big boys. You know?
And we were part of like the foremost Black people that actually broke into that student unionism at the graduate level, and it opened opportunities and doors. You know, it gave me information on when those scholarships came out. You could apply for jobs through the student union, government. Like, I worked endlessly with the GSU until I graduated. So I would encourage us to put ourselves out there. I know it's tough. Grad life is very tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of my volunteering, you know, when I came to Memorial, you know, thank God we're talking about this. So when I came to Memorial, so I was kind of looking to do something different, and I discovered that a lot of Black people just go to school and they don't mind, and then you see a lot of these Asian people, they are the one holding all of these positions.
Middle Easterners too.
So when I saw Chichi, I was like, okay, she's doing it. So I kind of spoke with her, you know, how to go about it, and then I got into it, and it was, do you know that when I actually got to University of Alberta, then I actually got into the Senate, and then they asked me, do you have experience? Do you know how long I've been doing Senate work? You know, when I said that during my, like, you know, just tell me about yourself during like the board meeting, that was it. Because I told them I already have experience with working with Senate, right? So it's not a, you know, I've met quite a lot of people, like the president of the university. We just chat. In fact, I haven't talked to the university, the president about my YouTube channel. Like, oh, you know, I do YouTube channel. They're like, oh, that's really good. That's a good and bad. So volunteering is very good, right? As a student, volunteering is very good. So take time and put in your very best to, you know, learn how the system works, right? So one quick thing before we close. So how do you combine, you know, let's say work and school? Like maybe you're doing something part-time, you know, how do you combine that with school?
You just have to do it anyhow.
Absolutely.
I think being resilient, I think that's just the word. And someone might say, how do you be resilient? Honestly, you just have to be determined. When you think about where you're coming from, and where you're going. And you always have to constantly remind yourself, why did I make this move?
That's right.
I think that's the most important question, because if the reason why you made that jump from your home country into Canada is not cogent enough, you will easily get discouraged, right?
That's right.
And so I just couldn't look back, because I just had to keep pushing myself to and again, you just have to try as much as possible to prioritize.
Absolutely.
There are certain things that you might have to leave for later, and I say that because in those days we couldn't afford. It was thrift store. We used to go and buy clothes.
I'm not ashamed of it.
We used to go to thrift store. We used to go to food bank. You just knew that the future was going to be brighter.
Absolutely.
And now you look back, those things are the things that made you stronger.
Absolutely.
And you can actually resonate and tell your story to other people to say, don't give up. There's actually light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you everyone for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, please do it to subscribe and hit the like button, so that whenever new videos are released, you'll be the first person to get notified. So once again, Chichi, thank you for coming, and hopefully see you in another video.
Yes, thanks, Peter. I appreciate it.
Okay.